Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And this afternoon, our special guest on Cool Your Heels with Lillian is Penelope, and I'm going to let her pronounce her name and the name of her book because it is rather long. Take it away, Penelope.
Penelope Tzougros, and here we are. Your home sweet home. How to decide whether you should stay or move in retirement.
Thank you. Now, Penelope, what motivated you to write a book that really is needed among today's, and I'm not going to say elderly populations because there are a lot of people who are retiring younger. And even though some of these senior homes do have age requirement, some of them do not.
Right. People started asking me, my clients started asking me, what do you know about these continuing care retirement communities? And I said, well, I know a little. And of course, that stimulated me to say, you better know a lot and get an answer to them. So I wrote the book. It took a couple of years of research.
I bet it does. Now, you're also a financial advisor, financial counselor.
Right.
And your clients are mostly the senior citizens, or do you have a wider spread?
That's an interesting question. I have people in their 30s. I have people in their 90s. So when I started being financial planner, I was concerned to just answer people's questions. I didn't have the marketing smarts to be a niche marketer. So I just answered questions and helped people.
That's pretty good. So you wrote the book because so many people were asking you why they should do ABC 1, 2, 3. Right. So this is important. How did you set up your book? If somebody really wants to know, is it like Wikipedia, the Britannica, or here's how you do it, stupid, let's go?
Okay. What I assumed is I was talking to complex people who had minds and hearts and emotions and appetites. So I wanted to say, how do we address this problem from the start? If you're just about to retire, what do you want out of retirement? So the beginning of the book is simply, what do you want? How do you want to live your life? And most books wouldn't start there if they were trying to just get you to stay or move. But I really wanted people to think about what the quality of their lives were. And then I walk them through the important things about the facts they need to know. Most people, if you ask, how much does it cost to run your house? They can't give you anything but a guesstimate. And that's very dangerous. They don't know if you ask them, what's your lifestyle cost? A guesstimate. Now, what we need in order to not run out of money and to make a good decision is we need better answers. So the book does that. And then the middle of the book, because I love to entertain, Lillian, I love to feed people.
Me too.
I have a chapter called The Soiree. And what I have there is I have people talking to each other. So I interviewed 70 people and have them give you snippets of their lives and how they decided what to do. So you hear as if you were in a soiree. You hear a little bit of this person, a little bit of that person, and they're eating. So at the back of the book, I have menus of what they're eating. And I thought, nobody is going to understand this crazy lady who, as a financial planner, wants to say, no, you're a whole person. You have appetites, you have worries. I'm trying to talk to you as a person who is complex. This is not a book about downsizing. It's not a book about retiring. It's a book that says, you have to make a very important decision. Let's help you understand all the ramifications and give you guidelines, give you a lot of questions to answer, and then see what you come up with.
Well, I know what my financial advisor did with me. He had me sit down, and I brought every bill in that I had, and sat down, and we set up a budget because I'm retired and I'm living off half of my husband's Social Security and my Social Security, plus various stocks and bonds. Don't groan. We're doing okay here. Conservative. I'm very conservative in my 60s.
Okay.
So it made a big difference. We figured out what I needed to do. And then the other big thing, folks, that you need to plan into when you're either going into a smaller home instead of going into a retirement home, take a good look around as to where the grocery store is, the pharmaceutical is, And the most important, where that hospital is, because the ambulance may not show up within 24 seconds. They may have to go through a lot of traffic to get here. And we all know that ambulances in New York and California and Chicago sometimes has to ride on top of the roofs of the cars to get through the masses of traffic. So this is things that you really need to consider. And I'm pretty sure you told that to people in your book as well.
Well, actually, that's a detail that I didn't include, but I think you're absolutely right. I did try to get them to think about what was necessary to them, and was moving from that house going to still have them near the pharmacy, the grocery, and things they need, their spiritual community, whatever that is. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So do you at any time in your book suggest that maybe they should sit down and take a look at their investments? Because when you're retired, a lot of people have that in addition to their pensions or to what they were granted by their companies.
Right. That's a very important piece. And I do try to teach a little bit there. There's a limit that what you can do when you're not sitting with a person. But I did try to give them guidelines. And I said, if you don't know the answers to how much growth your portfolio is capable of, how much income it's capable of, then you better talk to somebody who can help you. You may not even, as I've experienced, people come to me with portfolios, they don't know what's in them. They don't know how the thing is working. They can tell you it's down or up, but they can't tell you which elements are helping them live better. So it's critical, and I do try to guide that. Matter of fact, I'm just going through compliance to have a course called Will I Run Out of Money? Help! So that's going to be a free online course, and it's going to give a little bit more guidance about how, if you don't have a financial advisor, how you're going to get the answer to that question that you just asked.
And the other thing is, folks, that if you go into a retirement home, find out what their policy is if you run out of money because you have somebody in the dementia ward, or you have somebody with an illness that they can no longer keep at the hospital, so you're over in the assisted living or in the ward in which they have 24/7 nursing care. I can tell you, in the facility that my husband was in before he passed, I was paying $14,000 a month. And that was 24/7 nursing care. And it was fantastic. Yes, I had the money. Why? Because my husband was taught to start investing when he was 10 years old. He had a father who was a CPA. So Daddy explained a lot of financial life to him, and he was in better position than most young men to understand that you start saving before you hit 20.
Wow.
And by the time I married him, my son was, of course, 15, but his new dad taught him how to save, how to invest, what he needed to do. And it's made a tremendous difference. I, on the other hand, was the 50s kids, and women were not taught about finances. And so during our 30-year marriage, my husband made it his plan that I knew exactly what was in all the stocks and annuities that he had purchased over the years and understand them. So should he die before me, I wasn't clueless.
Wonderful. That's
Yeah.
a wonderful, inspiring story. And I think if you're saying that gets other people to think about what they're doing with their own children, what husbands and wives are doing, because sometimes it is the reverse. Sometimes the woman is the person who not only handles the daily budget, but also handles the stocks and bonds. So each of them really does need to know. And when I meet with people and they say to me, well, my wife doesn't feel like coming, I say, let her come. Make sure she comes, because we need to know each other. She needs to understand this stuff too. So my commitment to people, not just because I was a professor for many years, is to teach. I think that's the most valuable thing I do, is help people get more comfortable.
And it's important, especially in today's what's left of our economy. There's a whole brave new world out there now that has turned everything upside down. So as a result, what was one, and if we go back to a regular economy, I don't think it's going to be until they find an antidote or a vaccination for this, which is 2 years from now, folks. And you're not going to just wait around for it. You have to protect yourself. And also, if you can, try to find a job remote that aligns with your skills and experience so that you can pick up the pieces and go and do something.
Yeah, that's wonderful for those persons who can work remotely. But remember all those people who are cleaning the hospitals now and are doing all that critical work, putting themselves in jeopardy. It's not just the doctors and nurses, those cleaning people too, and the drivers of the ambulances.
Yes.
We need them too. Brain work isn't going to solve this.
No, brain work isn't going to solve this, but people who we are in dire need of blue collar workers, and you can take courses online to fill that gap. Everybody has something at home which they can bang around in or learn how to carve or learn how to rewire, because the current crop of blue collar people retire or pass on to the great beyond. There's nobody there to fill their jobs.
Yeah, you're right.
So I'm not saying that you have to be brilliant. Please, I don't have a 4-year degree, folks, and yet I own this station. I've been quite successful with it. So yes, I did a lot of homework. Still doing a lot of homework.
Yes.
It's something that you have to make up your mind to do.
Yes, I think we can't be passive. I think we have to understand that we're responsible for getting the jobs, for doing the work. It's not just going to work every day because it's already planned out for you. It's a matter of understanding you're the boss in some ways. You're the boss of your life, and you have to make decisions. You have to grow. You have to be able to learn. That's important. You're giving a great example there.
Well, I think it's important because people don't recognize that here's an opportunity for you really to turn your life around. I was brought up with the idea, well, if there's a bad recession, go back to school, because that's the ideal time to really go and get your studies without really feeling the pinch of being out of work, because you're going to be working part-time anyway. Yep. It's not like you're just going to drop everything. I don't know that many kids between the ages of 25 and 45 that are that independently wealthy.
Right.
In your book, do you tell or suggest to people how they go about choosing retirement homes?
Yeah, there are several chapters that work on that. I give them a bunch of choices, including the idea of cooperative housing, not co-ops, as we know, but the kind of co-housing that came out of Denmark, that people are living in individual units, but a lot of the communal life, the eating together, the community spirit of things is generated in that pod, so that there are other things other than independent living, assisted living. They're wonderful models that people can try. There are many, many choices. And it's just a matter of doing what you said you did initially with your advisor, which is making sure what you have, how much you can spend, and then finding someplace that is not going to rob you of your living expenses. And a house, unfortunately, as much as you might love your house, the problem is it could rob you of your retirement because the expenses keep going up. Real estate taxes, you're not in control of that. You may be able to defer replacing the roof, but you're not going to have the house appreciate in value if you keep deferring the maintenance. So that the point at which you need to sell the house, it's gotten less valuable because you haven't kept up with it. So is that a good choice just because you love your house? Yeah, it's a problem. I try to walk people through what it is they love about their house, try to break that down, try to make them see there are alternatives. And then, as you said, there's a bunch of exercises and websites to go to find what I call the hidden gem that you'll like as much as where you are now.
Absolutely. Do you also talk about reverse mortgages? Because some people do live beyond their reverse mortgage and they find out now they're homeless.
Yeah. Our industry has a position pretty much against reverse mortgages. So I don't talk about it extensively. I do point them to it. I do explain it. But the problem I have with reverse mortgages, and I just talked to a person who does that for a living. She was trying to convince me why these were wonderful. And I said, from my point of view, it is not a financial planning solution. It is a Band-Aid. And what you're going to probably find is it hasn't solved the problem because the person hasn't done what Lillian has done, which is to really know the expenses, to know the assets, and understand long term, given a rate of inflation of 4%, which is actually historically relevant, can you live there? Is it just going to rob you? And the problem is a reverse mortgage doesn't talk in that language. It really doesn't look to do that. So am I against them? Yeah. I would say there might be. In all the years that I've been doing financial planning, Lillian, one client, one, had a reverse mortgage. And she had unique circumstances. But I don't think it solves the problem.
And what about when people try to sell their life insurance to help them stay in the home? Is that a good idea?
Not if they have anyone they love, not if they have any debts. Because the reason you bought the life insurance was to cover the final expenses, to leave something as a legacy, and to pay off the debts you have. So anyone who has debts, if they have no way of putting aside money for the funeral and the debts, what are they doing to their beloved family? If you have no beloved family, if you're completely single, you have no one dependent on you, I suppose it doesn't matter. But the responsible thing is to understand those are final expenses and they are not inexpensive, even if you do cremation.
That's right. It cost me $3,000 to cremate my husband and another $2,000 to buy a very small plot of land to put him in a $700 biodegradable container and plant him. And I picked up a rose-colored granite stone memory thing for him for $75. It was on sale. But it was costly, and each death certificate, folks, cost $20. And guess what? You usually need about 10 to 20 of them for every place you need where your husband or wife has an account.
That's right. Yeah, you're wise to say that. So even if we add up roughly the numbers you talked about, you're getting pretty close to $6,000.
Yes, and again, we were prepared. My husband and I lived within our budget, which meant that we didn't go out very much. We didn't go out to eat all the time. Starbucks was a treat, not a daily ritual. Yes, we went on vacation, but we saved in between. So when we went to Alaska on that cruise, we paid in cash. I thought the travel agent would drop dead on the spot.
Yes, I imagine so. That kind of thing is generally we come home from the vacation, we have it on the credit card for the next year, and that is not a plan of action. But I think your mindset and your husband's is the wiser choice. It's now that people are seeing the reality of the safety net of work, of all those things being pulled out from under them. I wonder, is this period of at-home living going to teach us anything? Are we going to get smarter? Are we going to get spiritually deeper? Are we going to understand our values? Are we going to even ask value questions that we did not ask before because theoretically we were too busy? We were just going on go. This is what I do every day. It is a fascinating time. I am hopeful that as Americans, we will come out the other side deeper as people, more centered, and have the values that you were just talking about.
Well, just remember that they had the Black Death in the 10th, 11th, and 12th century. And that's what I think about a lot. And the only difference is that we have the internet. And I think in communication, because our behavior is the same as it was then. If you take a look at what's going on in the grocery stores and with people black marketing the tools and goods that the hospitals, doctors, nurses really, really need, which makes you wonder about their behavior at a time like this.
Yeah.
But I really believe, I'm thinking that the people who are going to learn the most are not in Washington, D.C.
I wonder why you say that.
Yeah, I don't know. You tell me. You're a little older than I am. You're wiser.
Yeah.
But seriously, folks, this is another really important decision outside of having kids, how to raise them, and what schools hopefully they'll get into when they graduate from high school.
Right.
It is right up there. And it is in some ways a life-death situation, because if you choose the wrong retirement community, I heard of a case where the lady thought the food was disgusting in the place she just moved into, and she moved out. We had a couple downstairs who spent tons of money on renovating their apartment. They moved in, and 4 months later, they were forced to move out because they couldn't sell their house. So these are things you really do need to consider. One of the things I like about Phoebe is that if you run out of money, they will carry you until the day you die.
That's right. Yeah.
And not every community offers that.
Right.
So read the fine print.
Yeah, they should be talking to an accountant and an attorney to look at that contract. And one of the contracts that is so valuable is the type A contract in a CCRC, a continuing care retirement community. The reason that's so important is it does what you said before. If you go in as independent living and then you need higher care, it will carry you through higher care without extra cost, because the plan is that type A contract is geared to do exactly all that job. Now, another thing that we didn't talk about yet is long-term care insurance.
Yes.
So those persons who have not gotten long-term care insurance because, oh, I'll never need it. Or as one person said to me, if I got that diagnosis, I would jump out the window. That's not planning.
Or pre-existing conditions, you can't get it because they excluded me. I've got to mention, my husband had long-term care. And while I didn't pay an exorbitant amount of money, well, when you pay your $14,000 plus, your CPA, or at least my CPA told me, don't worry, that's tax deductible and you'll get your money back. Guess what? We had a large return I had a large return this year. So before things start happening at the hospital, yes, Medicare and his secondary insurance paid for everything. And he was in the hospital for a month. I went in overnight for heart problems. It was over $6,000. So I can't imagine what his bill looked like.
Right, right. So the value of the CCRC, the Continuing Care Retirement Community with a Type A contract, is that if you have not been able to buy long-term care, or you chose not to buy it for a variety of reasons, you in a sense have long-term care in that setting. So as long as you go into that facility well enough, you will have the protection that you didn't buy initially. And that's a very valuable thing for a lot of people to look at.
Absolutely. And the other thing, folks, that you need to recognize is that before they allow you to buy into any community, they go through your financial records like you are buying a house.
Right.
So if you have a lot of debt on credit cards, that will count against you.
Yeah, and they're helping you because they don't want you to wind up having to move out. And certainly that situation where you said the lady or the couple had to leave because they couldn't sell their house, yeah, that's not planning. That's not how you do that. And most facilities now, I don't think would have allowed them to do that. I think they would have been stricter about it.
Well, yeah. I know that they went through our financial, and because our assets, because the bank called us up and said, well, Blue came in and they looked at all your financial records and they spoke with your financial advisor. Wow. And we just wanted to make sure you would be able to pay the monthly, what we call condo fees here.
Yep.
Because
right.
They're paying for a lot of additional things for you. Right. But what I love about it is you get your house cleaned twice a month. I couldn't afford a maid if I lived outside of this place, let me tell you.
Another thing that one of the people I interviewed for the book said, it's really wonderful. In the outside world, when I went out with my friends for dinner, it was expensive. But yes. Now my friends are in the same facility and I'm not paying anything extra to have dinner with them. She said, this is really lovely. So
well, it is. You're given an allowance.
Yeah.
And if you're a couple, you get more of an allowance. When my husband was alive, we received $350 for the month. And for me, I'm down to $150, as you probably figured. Well, I don't always use it up. So I bring in my 3 grandchildren.
There you go.
Yeah. They can get stuff here for, I would say, a third off than paying retails at the store. I mean, they put Sam and Costco to shame, and we have a good chef. We're not using bad ingredients. This guy is very, very good. And they love it. They just love coming over here. That's the existence for my grandson to come over to get his mac and cheese or his grilled cheese sandwiches, while the twins who are in track, they go and buy out all the, energy stuff.
That's lovely.
And it's really great. It works out for everybody.
Yeah.
But these are the kind of things you need to look out for, and whether or not the chef can cater to your dietary needs.
Yeah, I have a number of people who are either vegan or vegetarian, and one of the problems they're struggling with is the problem of whether or not the chef has a wide enough repertoire in that area. So yeah, you do need to look at the places carefully and not be swayed by some marketing gimmick, but look and ask the questions. Test out a theory like what you just said about, can I have people come in? And can I use part of my meal ticket for that? Because if you're going to cook a couple of meals for yourself and you like to do that, then sure, you've got the extra dollars to treat the kids, and that's lovely.
Yes. And one other thing, folks, when you go and visit these places, take pictures, because after a while they all look the same.
Yeah.
And then go home and take a look at them separately after you rested for the day. Right. And ask your questions ahead of time. And one other thing, a lot of them have what they call a sleepover apartment for people who are considering buying a unit. And they allow you to come over, spend the day, eat at the cafeteria, and sleep over, and then go home. And I think that's a really great idea. We visited about 10, 15 of the folks. And after a week of searching, my husband finally said, this is the place. And that was it. So your spouse, or maybe you, will have this spiritual connection to wherever you're going. And that will be the place. But you, as they say, kiss a lot of frogs before you find Prince Charming.
Right. I do have worksheets in the book for them to actually make a note of the size of the space. When you look out the window, what do you see? Questions like that are a little bit offbeat, but would matter if you were living there. So there are a lot of questions for them to answer. And I think that will help them make the decisions they need to make, because it is complex. And what you just said about whether, I'm sorry, we have just been invaded.
That's okay. Hi, doggy. Hi, Poodle. Don't you look special? Oh, yes.
She was knocking down the barrier that I put up. So
that's okay. I like dogs. Not a problem. Audience likes dogs too.
Okay. So what happens is that they need to, as you said, differentiate the various places, because they cannot all look the same. I also put down a section where I asked them, who did you talk to? Did you talk to residents? What did they say? What questions did you ask? Did you only talk to the marketing people? So I have a bunch of things for them to consider as they go through the places so they can find the right thing. But what you said is fascinating. When you said you went to about 10 places and your husband said, this is the place. What is that about? Why does that happen? Because it's not exactly an analysis, right? What is he reacting to when he says this is the place?
I think it was because everybody was friendly, and that made a big difference. And we saw a unit that had a large kitchen, and he was a chef. The fact that it had, square yardage is very important. So look into that. And he was delighted. It was over 1,000 square yards, and he just fell in love with the apartment. And that was it. Because it also had a washer and dryer and a balcony, and his day was made. Yeah, and he had a little plot of land to garden, and he was an avid gardener. So, I mean, for him, it was wonderful. Now, you have to understand, I was 6 years younger than he was, and I wasn't overly thrilled about going into an independent living. But I finally likened it to living in a dorm for 4 years or longer, if you're a perpetual student. And everybody had their own private domicile, which they could shut the door. And the only thing in common was the hallway that led to different places.
Right. Yep. I often in the book talk about it as being like a college. and it's a campus that you have to feel good about. My twin nieces just chose their college because ultimately, after all the places they went to, all the applications they wrote, I can see myself here, is what they said. And I said, okay. I was disappointed because I was hoping they were going to come to Boston because they both liked Emerson College. But unfortunately, I didn't win this time.
I got accepted at Emerson. It's a wonderful college.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I just couldn't make enough money to go there. It was back in the 70s. But Emerson is a top-notch school, always was.
Yeah. They've done amazing work with making it flexible for you to go after what you love and then also get the requirements done. They've been amazing about it. Yeah.
That is really awesome. I congratulate them fully because they were a very competitive school to get into during the 70s, and they accepted me, and I felt like I could have really have done and grown, which is what college is all about, is growing.
Right. And I think actually to keep the analogy going about this campus life at the continuing care or independent or assisted living, it is growth that they're concerned about. They are not looking at you as at the end of your road. They're looking at you as this is an interesting time to grow and do things that maybe while you were raising a family and working, you didn't have the time to do. Look at the number of events that most of them schedule, all kinds of classes, all kinds of enhancement. So you want to go into a place like that when you're feeling pretty well. You don't want to go in there when you're your frailest. And when people say to me, I'm not ready yet, my answer is, what are you talking about? You want to go when you're healthy so you can enjoy the people. You'll have the energy to make new friends. You don't want to go there when you're frail, when you're at your worst and you're saying, well, now I have to go there because. No, that's not the mindset. It is a campus. It's lively. It's a place to enhance your life, to give you support. That's when you make the change.
And one more thing, not all of them are available immediately. So get yourself on a list as soon as you can. We were fortunate. The person just kicked the bucket and we got their apartment. But that doesn't happen in the real life of retirement homes. Sometimes people are on a waiting list for 10 years. So if you find a place you like, don't dither. Sign up. It's like trying to get your kid who's in preschool into one of those exclusive preschools.
Right. You're absolutely right about that. So even if you have to put a couple of down payments on a couple of places to get yourself in line, do that, because you may not get into your favorite one. As you said, it could take 10 years because people are, I think, adding life to their life in that setting. And that's, again, one of the interviewees said that because she was there, she was living more fully than she was in her lovely house that she had had for many years, because there was so much activity. There were new friends. There were people in their 90s who were sharper and more fun to be with than anybody else. And for the people who say to me, this is another classic statement, I don't want to be around old people.
There are no old people here.
And I said to them, you know what, with that mindset, they don't want you either. They don't want you in their space because you are thinking old.
Yeah.
They only want young people. So if you think they're old, you can only imagine what they think of you. They don't want you there if that's how you think. They want vigorous people who have ideas and want to share them.
I'll tell you, I'm considered the baby of the facility because I'm still under 70.
Well, there you go. There you go.
The other thing it is, your child, adult child, will turn around and say, I am no longer going to worry about you because I know you're in good hands. And at first you can take umbrage for it the way I did. But when I thought about it, I thought, no, actually, I don't have to be responsible to you. I am independent of you. And whether you come and see me is an irrelevant point because I don't really need you, do I?
Well, you want their love and you want to give them their love.
But you don't want to be hovered around.
Yeah, not for use. It's the thing that it should be anyway. It should be a love relationship, not,
Yeah.
oh gosh, I've got to go to mom's because the light bulbs are out and she's complaining. And if I know her, she'll get on a ladder and she'll go up and change that light bulb, and I can't have that because if she falls, then I'm.
Yes, that's exactly his thinking. And yet he tells me, if you need anything done, call me. So, like everything else, I try to limit my calls to him to make him think that he doesn't have to worry about me, that I'm in good hands. And it works both ways, what I call reverse psychology. And it always has worked before when he was a kid, and it's still working beautifully now as an adult.
That's good. Yeah. And it is respectful, because one of the stories that just happened was a lady who was 100 and managed to live independently. Now watch this word independently. What does it really mean? She was independent in living in her own house only because a niece who came all the way up from Plymouth to Stoneham, which is a 2-hour ride, came up on a weekly basis to take care of her. Her next door neighbor looked down in on her about 3 or 4 times a day. So you tell me, is that independent when you are relying on the goodness of other people? Now, granted, those people did it out of love, but is that what independent means?
And you're paying a price. It's the price for her independent existence.
Yeah, but she's maybe taking that for granted, that she has a right to call.
Yeah, well, they do. Some of the older people here, they also believe that, and so do I. I mean, you raise your kids, and yet they don't hesitate to come to you when they're adults and ask you to lend them $25,000, $35,000, $40,000 for a summer home because you have that money put away.
Yeah, right.
Or I want to send, what my son did to me, he says, we want you to put the kids through college because we won't have any money left. And I said, well, there's going to be a problem here.
Yep.
I said, because I consider myself more important than your 3 kids.
Well, they have options that you don't have.
Well, they have options. They can get a job. That's how I mean, it took me 25 years for me to pay off my college loan, but I got paid off.
That's right. That's right. So I think that the sense of privilege or being taken care of, and that's actually one of the things I worry about in the time we're in right now, even with this $2 trillion package, that some people will be sitting there and saying, instead of saying, I'm grateful that someone's helping, is saying, why isn't there more? And that's a little bit of a worry. Again, it goes back to mindset. Do we know how to be grateful and what to be grateful for? Let us not be such consumers that we forgot what real values are.
It's difficult in this time, and you have to understand they're more than a generation removed from after World War II. I mean, your generation and my generation were brought up 5 years after the war.
Right.
And then we were in Korea, followed by Vietnam.
Right.
So, and then there was a long period of peace. So a lot of these kids who were born in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s have no concept of what it really takes to be, I dread saying this, a good citizen to this country. And that less is more.
Yes. Yeah. The word sacrifice is being bandied around right now, and I think people have not understood it. I think the frontline people are doing that. But I think the people who are at home and grousing about, oh, I can't see my sports, oh, I can't this, I can't that, instead of saying, hey, when was the last book you read? Did you read your book to a kid? What are you doing? Did you go help somebody else? What are you doing? So that's why I was hopeful before that maybe this will change some people, and they'll think more deeply instead of saying, I don't have what I want, therefore everything's bad. Well, no, that's not it. Look at those people who are killing themselves every day. Heartrending stories about what the medical people are having to face. Can you imagine having minute by minute to deal with life and death and to pronounce people dead?
I watched my husband die.
Yeah.
So, and it was pretty thorny, as I would put it, the best way. I'm an author and I do a lot of writing, so sometimes my words come out a little in that vein. But I watched a former professor, a Barnard, New York City, who had its doctorate and from Harvard in organic chemistry go, and he went through Bronx Science when he was a child, so he was pretty up there.
Yeah.
And watched him go from that to somebody who couldn't even write his name anymore.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
And it really is. So I understand, and I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm not scared of the C virus. Maybe I should, but I'm not. I don't waste time on that. I have more important things to do that I'm here to help other people, and that's what I do. That's what I like to do. That's my passion. If I get sick, okay, fine. If I don't get sick, okay, fine. To me, it's one of these thin lines that you make a choice as to whether you're going to stand up and contribute or stand down and cower. And I'd rather stand up and contribute.
I was immensely impressed with what you said to me before we started the program, which was the network that you have created for help. I think you should announce that again to everybody. I'm amazed with what you've done.
The station's been up for 15 years. I'm now supporting it with my Social Security until I can get more people to come in and help me. And I've been told I'm very passionate. I get up on my little soapbox. In fact, I'm so good about describing what my station does that I had 2 or 3 people from top-rated radio and TV stations take my words and use them to describe their places. They said they just couldn't help it. I had a way of putting things together that was so impressive that they had to use my words. So I didn't make a big deal of it. I felt complimented and then asked for money for them using my words. They weren't too amused by that, but I was. I just think, folks, that there's a lot to be done in this country, and that there should be no excuses about stepping up to the plate and making it possible. Because I know we've been doing series on caregivers for Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. And I'm helping a nurse try to get a bill passed through Massachusetts to stop healthcare violence against nurses who are beaten up to a point where they can't work anymore, and 1 or 2 have died. Imagine them being your mother, your grandmother, your sister, your aunt. And imagine how you would like if they came home with their face rearranged because a patient got upset or a doctor lost it. Talking of nurses, one thing I will say, all the doctors have protective gear. Their nurses do not. Neither male nor female nurses have anything but those face masks. And these are the people that go home to their families, to their kids, to their pets, who can carry it just as well. Think about it. Your interaction with your favorite dog. Licking face? Yes. Well, let me tell you something. That's dangerous. Yeah. So while you're maybe not on the front line, you're not that MASH unit out in the dangerous ground to take care of the wounded. You are the back line. You're the line that is protecting the rear of all those people who are out there trying to do their jobs and trying to help us. So you need to be there for them because they're always there for you, just like Passionate World Talk Radio will always be there for you. Okay, getting back to Penelope. Could you please tell everybody where they can find you on the World Wide Web, where they can find your book, repeat your free course, and anything else that you feel will make a difference in the lives of my demographic audience of 18 to 55 plus.
Thank you very much. The website is Wealthy Choices. So www.wealthychoices.com, because I want you to make choices that help you be wealthy. And when you go there, you'll find an article that you can download easily on annuities, which is one of the things Lillian mentioned earlier. Especially at this time, it may be a way for you to really help recoup what you have. So you'll see in that article those ideas. And then there's a course that goes with the book. The book is Your Home Sweet Home, How to Decide Whether to Stay or Move in Retirement.
The book again, excuse me.
Yeah, sure. That's that book.
Good, perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
And the other book that's on there as well is long-term care insurance. So what we're looking at there is, as you had your experience with your husband, I had with my mom. She was dementia for about 13 years in a nursing home, which is a way long time. And that's what got me to write that book. So that book is on there. Also, the course, The Retiree's Guide for the Stay Move decision. So it's different from the book. It doesn't have as many anecdotes and 70 people being interviewed, but it guides you through the major things that will help you make a decision about staying or moving. And the other course that'll be up in probably a month is Will I Run Out of Money? Help! And that's to help you understand your portfolio. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell people about that.
Oh, you're very much welcome. Now, folks, listen up. Let's get to say to your mother, father, aunt, uncle, or even great aunt, uncle, going out and working at McDonald's or being a greeter at Walmart or Target. They're all old people and they're working, bagging because they don't have enough money. Their Social Security will not cut it.
Yeah. And as you know, it was never meant to do that.
It was never meant to do that. I mean, they introduced the 401ks back in what, the 70s, the 80s?
70s.
And a lot of people did not take advantage of it. Yes, it's tied to the stock market, but hello, it's an investment. You put money in and then you cut off your fingers and toes so you don't get over there to take it out. Because it's long-term growth.
Yes, and if people are very worried about having seen their investments tank right now, the answer is when we've looked over and over again historically, these things heal. It is the market. It is, after all, think about what the market represents. It represents the companies that you work for. It's the vigorousness that everybody goes to work every day and makes things. That is what the stock market is about. So you can't say it isn't vital. It is vital. It's you. It's what you do every day. That's what makes the market. So don't be afraid of it. Realize that as you contribute your work every day, you're contributing to this overall wonderful thing that we call production and that we call the market. So it's not something to be afraid of. It's dipped. It's like if you're a healthy person and you get the flu, not the coronavirus, but any flu, you're going to have a fever. Maybe you get sick a little bit, but in a week or two, you're well. Well, a good portfolio is like that too. If you're holding junk, it's a problem. But most of you aren't holding junk. You're holding stuff in investments that were screened in some fashion by the people who have presented it in the 401k, the 403b, blah, blah, blah. So not to be worried about that part. Be more worried about the human angle of what we're suffering right now. Help your neighbors, do what you can for each other, love each other. That's what we need to remember. We're in it together. What Lillian is doing, all the links that she's put up for you to see how many help associations there are. Look at what she's done for you. It's huge. That's what we're about.
It's called the Help Wanted section, and you can find it at https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. Right-hand side of the page, menu, take a look, Help Wanted. You'll see it. Click on it, and voila, I just put about 25 different news releases on it this morning, and it covers the world. So it's Canada, and it's England, and it's India. It covers the world because we are an internet station. Speaking of world, you will find this video interview with Penelope on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and you will find the audio of this video on iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker. Speaking of which, there is a Spreaker player page on PWTR. Click on that, and that will take you to all the different hosts and their programs. And it's just not the newest podcast on that, but also all their previous ones. Or you can go scroll down on the menu on the website to cool your heels, and you will see this video as well. And before you go away and stray, Camford had this to say in 1805. It must be admitted that there are some parts of the soul which we must entirely paralyze before we can live happily in this world. Thank you all very much for listening, and until next time, stay healthy.
Thank you.